Thank you. Deputy Flanagan.
Shouldn't we get the answers first?
Well, we want to take the 4 questions together, please.
Okay. I have numerous questions to ask, though. They will be follow-on questions once I ask. And I've been here 4 hours and 20 minutes, and as of yet, I haven't got to ask a single question. So now we're all grouped together.
Well, my apologies for that, but I wasn't chairing it then at that stage, and the instructions that were left were the last 4 were going together. But I can assure you one thing, that if I was chairing it, it would have been in much before now, much earlier.
All right. Just this question is for the 2 energy companies, if that's the correct name. You're probably aware that there is a bill in at first stage in the Dáil, which was put there originally by Deputy Willie Penrose and then other deputies in an attempt to try and get this heard and debated and voted on in a faster nature than it is currently. We have also put it forward. It would create a situation where you would be facing up to 10 times setback on distances, for example, up to 1.8 kilometres away, if these things were put into place. It would also give the public far more right and access to kind of an equal footing when it came to fighting on this. I'm just wondering, I would imagine you're aware that this is out there, given that you've invested your whole lives in this and all the money that you can get your hands on. How many turbines, or what sort of capacity would you be left with if there were setback distances of what is being suggested in this bill? There's also the mention of the amount of money that it would be worth to the area. Has there been any analysis done on what damage would be done to tourism and potential future tourism if 1,000 turbines are put on the landscape? And given that people come to Ireland to escape from an industrialised landscape. The core part of the problem here seems to be that, yet again, there has been a DAD, decide, act and defend attitude to developing this whole process. And I think there was attempts earlier by, I think it's Tim, is it, to maybe make us feel a little bit better about this. But it doesn't make me feel better when you look at the system that you say you go through. The first thing you do is you identify a suitable area. Then you meet the landowners. Now, the landowners could be big landowners, but there could be quite a lot of people who don't own land in that area. And, like, have you never heard of a public meeting before you start off all this and say what you're planning on doing? And I have heard Ireland mentioned on so many occasions that I gave up counting. And the reason why I mentioned the fact that this Ireland thing keeps coming up, what is Ireland? Ireland is its people. And without the people, Ireland doesn't exist. We're a rock in the Atlantic. And if it's Ireland that's important, and if people are Ireland, which I would love to see someone prove me wrong on this one, people are Ireland. Why are people being left until you're halfway down the road before you tell them you're coming at them? Because if you really cared about Ireland, you'd care about the people and you would bring them in. And I've heard numerous reassurances, but Agnes over there blew it all apart. Because how did she find out about it? She found out about it when it was too late, potentially, when you had all your minds made up and there was no coming back. Now, when it comes to community gain, would there not be a better community gain if this was led by the community? And I have to say it's very worrying listening to Board Móna, and I think I didn't get a first name because I can't see the tag, but Mr. Darcy, Gabriel Darcy. Gabriel, when I seen your frustration at the fact that different counties had different plans, and that maybe there should be more of an alignment, this was your suggestion, of local plans with regional plans and national plans. Well, sorry. Now, I'm no Europhile, but I do like the whole idea of subsidiarity. And subsidiarity is from the bottom up, not someone who's damn close to the top bemoaning the fact that the people at the bottom aren't coordinated the way you want them to be, because that's what we got off you earlier. And this is where the problem is. And it's the problem when it comes to pylons, it's the problem when it comes to turbines, it's the problem when it comes to turf cutting, it's the problem when it comes to everything in this country. In that, it is rammed down your throat, and then you come back and put maybe a bit of olive oil down our throat to make it feel a little bit better. Now, what you're suggesting and what you're doing, it's not going to work the way you're going about it. The worst part of today for me, though, was getting a lecture on what global warming is and all the dangers of global warming from an organisation that raped the bogs and destroyed them. Now, I know people like me who cut a small amount of turf every year got the blame for it. I know what global warming is. I understand it. I have my opinions on it. And if you want people to follow you, I have a suggestion for you. You don't lecture them and say they have these opinions on the basis that they're somehow uneducated or that they don't really understand. This is where you're going to fail. People do understand. The problem is you don't understand because you're not listening to people. And people have never had access to more information and real information, and they can read up on it. And if you want anything to work, you don't start off by saying, if only you would understand, then you do what we want to do, because that will not work. Now, a question on, like, we're trying to reach our targets. Of course, this has changed now because we don't have targets. It's an overall target. When this is built, who gets the credit for this? Does Britain get the credit for it, or do we get the credit for it? Or is it a case now that it doesn't matter because we're all cooperating, just like we did on the banking crisis, where we cooperated with Europe and ended up with 42% of the bill? This is the sort of cooperation we get off Europe. Now, I don't know, is it true, this old wives' tale? And who knows whether it is or not, but it's going to be coming true. We were told at home that the dream of the Germans was to come over here and take us over during the war and plant the place with cabbages. Well, it sounded ridiculous, and maybe it was a ridiculous suggestion. But ridiculous and all as it is, it seems now that our cooperation on this is going to be, well, we'll be the only ones who have to deal with this, and as much as they can pile on top of us. And the decisions are being made in the same way as all desperate decisions are being made, in the same way as a poor prostitute might make the decision to ply her trade outside the home to feed their kids. Not necessarily the best decision in the world, but we're making these decisions on the same basis, desperation, because we have to pay back Britain money from this bailout that we're meant to have got from them. And we're now so desperate that we don't care whether we destroy our communities, blight our landscape, destroy our looks forever, destroy our tourism industry. And the decision is being made because we're desperate. You shouldn't make decisions when you're desperate. You should sit back and think about what you're doing, because what you're doing is, this is your consultation. And this will be the beginning and the end of it. And you'll have everything on your side in the future, and you'll ram it home. But sadly, the public won't put up with that. And it will be sad if it comes to this. But I know for a fact, if you don't work with people on this one, it's never going to happen. And at the end of the day, if you put them up, if it takes chainsaws and angle grinders, I won't be doing it, but they will come down. That is a fact, because you don't tell Irish people what to do with their own land, tell them how to live their lives. We bet the Brits out of here who tried to do that, and they'll be bet out again if that's what it takes.
Thank you, Deputy. In order to be helpful, I think there's a lot of questions or issues raised by Deputy Mulhern and Deputy Flanagan. We'll take some answers from you and then before we go on to our next two contributors. Just bearing in mind that time has moved off, so we'd ask you to be sharp and short with your replies, please.
Okay, well, I'm sorry if some of my words have been misinterpreted. I'm not dictating anything in terms of top-down or bottom-up or whatever. All that I'm saying is, as a company, state-owned enterprise, that is faithfully and loyally trying to implement government-approved strategy, strategy that has been developed following due process. That's what we're about here, and I've been asked, and we have been asked to come in and contribute to this discussion to see if we can assist in further implementation of.
Did you not think we knew about global warming and all
Excuse
that
me.
already? You'd no need to come
Sorry,
here
Deputy.
and maybe feed it into
Deputy,
us.
just a second. Can we have some response to set back this?
I think Deputy Flanagan mentioned about the credits. From the
Mentioned about the potential of a bill being enacted and passed.
Yes,
10 times distance.
I referred to that earlier on. Deputy
Yeah.
Flanagan.
What will it result in?
Well, I mean, effectively, it would close that.
Both participants to address the chair, please. We don't have any two-way conversation.
Apologies, Mr. Chair. No, sorry. I addressed that earlier on in a previous question, where, you know, obviously, if
I heard your answer earlier on, and I didn't think it answered my question. That's why I asked it again. Do we have figures out there? What impact this will happen if, like, this is a fairly major thing. We have a government TD who has a bill in there that, like, and you're planning into the future. I know you don't think it's our money, but I do. So what would that leave you with if that's passed? What would you be left with?
as I indicated, if you had a 1.8 kilometre setback distance imposed as part of the law, it would significantly reduce Ireland's ability to develop onshore wind farms, no question.
Can I get something a bit more accurate than significant? One man's significant is another man's insignificant.
I suppose, Deputy Flanagan, you'd have to assess this on a project-by-project basis, which is not something that we have done in detail. All I can say to you is it would have a significant impact. There's no question.
Is a yes or a no answer?
We have two other speakers and they've been very patient that want to pose questions. So very briefly, Deputy.
I have a babysitter
Then
that's even more patient. But,
to Senator Keane.
it's just one question,
Yes,
yes
please.
or no. Can you confirm that whether these projects will be covered by the Strategic Development Initiative? Because if this is for profit out of the country, it wouldn't be a Strategic Development Initiative. It would be a Strategic Development Initiative for Britain, all right? So I'm just wondering, will it be covered by that? Do you know that? Anyone know?
Yeah, the projects are, so it's a process. You engage with the Board Penala to determine whether the project is considered applicable under the Strategic Infrastructure Development process. But we would expect that the projects of the scale that we're talking about, the Greenwire project, would be applicable to the SID process. It actually sets out a minimum turbine, number of turbines and megawatt size.
Specific project.
Yeah.